This right here is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6, Samsung's latest book-style foldable, which is a phone that unfolds to become a mini tablet. This is also the launch of a series that I want to start in 2025, where I go and explore the outdoors and answer one simple question: are phones any good at landscape photography? So as this is mainly a photography channel, I'm not going to be boring you all with the full specs of these phones. I'm just going to be talking about the specs and features that are more tailored towards the video and photo side of things. But yeah, I just want to showcase really how good phones can be when it comes to landscape photography. The cameras in these phones are getting so versatile and so powerful these days, and a lot of them support RAW photography these days as well, so you can do quite a lot when it comes to the editing as well. So as you can tell right now, we're currently sat inside my van. That's just because the weather's been pretty bad this morning. It's been pouring down a lot. It's quite windy out there as well, so I thought it'd be a bit easier to film inside, or just film this intro inside anyway. So today we're mainly going to be focusing on the RAW capture and using the Pro mode to just get the best out of the cameras. But overall, the images that come out of the standard camera are really, really good. You do have to be careful sometimes. I have noticed that if the lighting is a bit iffy, like if it's a really overcast day, sometimes it tries to overcompensate and it tries to add quite a lot of contrast and it tries to really brighten up the image. And sometimes it gives the image quite a grey look. Just while we're on the subject of cameras as well, I'll just quickly run through the three cameras that we have on the rear of this phone. So we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 15 megapixel primary sensor, and a 10 megapixel 3x telephoto camera. What is really cool with the foldable phones is you can use them as their own tripod. Because they can be positioned in any way, you can just prop them up and you can leave them wherever you want, and you can do hands-free capture, you can do time lapses and things like that. And it's just a nice benefit that you get from a foldable phone. But yeah, overall, the photos that come out of this phone are generally pretty good. The white balance is usually spot on. They have a nice bit of contrast and saturation without overdoing it like the Samsungs of old. You just have to be careful on the overcast days. Sometimes it does mess up and it tries to overcompensate and it tries to overexpose for some reason. But yeah, overall, most people would be really happy with the photos that come out of this phone. So yeah, as I say, we're going to go and explore the area now. I'm going to just take some photos, just see what we can capture. I will capture some video as well. I'll do some talking to camera and I'll do some B-roll with the phone itself, just so you can see what video looks like coming out of this phone. I really do hope the weather improves in the UK soon. It's still freezing. I know it looks quite nice behind me, but it's really, really cold out here today. One little gripe I do have with capturing the RAW photography on this phone is I wish you didn't always have to be in Pro mode to capture RAW photos. If I'm not mistaken, I think on the iPhones you can switch RAW support on, and then when you're in the default camera app it just captures RAW photos and Jpegs, so you don't really need to mess with controls and stuff. Whereas on this phone you have to be in Pro mode to take any sort of RAW photos, because the RAW is not supported in the default camera app. As nice as it is having full control over your images, and when you're in the Pro mode you can switch everything on automatic, so it does kind of like work the same. It's just, I wish I could just open up the camera app and then I know that I'd always be capturing RAW photos no matter what mode I was in. Because when you double click the power button on this phone, it just defaults to the Photos app, so I have to quickly switch to Pro mode just to get the RAW support. So I just wish it was baked into the default photo mode. I know you can switch on remember camera settings, so every time I go in it would remember that I was in Pro mode last. But then if I was in video mode last, it would go straight to video and then I might miss a shot I was trying to get really quickly. So yeah, I hope Samsung will allow us to just switch on RAW support in the default Photos app. There is another camera app that you can get as well that captures RAW photos, which is called Expert RAW. But what that's doing is it's actually taking Samsung's computational photography like style, and it's blending that in with a RAW file. So I'll put some images up on screen now, and this is the default camera app, just a default JPEG, a photo captured with the Pro mode in the default camera, and then a photo captured with Expert RAW. And what you can see is the normal RAW file that doesn't have the computational photography, it's just a standard RAW image. that has more shadow detail and just more contrast in it. Whereas if you look at the Expert RAW, it's just like a normal JPEG that comes out of most phones these days. It's got that HDR look to it, and I'm just not a fan. And with that RAW file, I know there's a lot of detail in there, and it'll retain a lot of shadow and highlight detail when it comes to the editing. It just seems like you've got to you've got to strip back that look that's there. So it just complicates the editing, I feel. I'd rather just start from the base RAW. So I don't tend to use the Expert RAW camera myself, but it does have some quite cool features in it. It has an astro photography mode, so it can bring up a star map and show you where certain stars are in the sky, just overlaid onto your camera viewfinder. So that's pretty cool. And it lets you do like really long exposures if you want to capture any star trails or you just want to capture star photography at night. So that's really cool. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the RAW like files with the computational photography. Like, I just don't like that HDR look that a lot of phones have these days. It seems to be getting worse and worse, and like photos are just kind of like, they don't have any contrast to them. I want that trend to kind of go away and we kind of bring in a bit more like contrast into our photos again when it comes to phone photography. But just thought I'd mention that app just in case anyone wants to have a little mess around with it or wants a default camera app that does RAW, and you could maybe set that to a different shortcut on your phone. So this is the phone in its flex mode, and what you can see now is the cover screen is showing a preview of the rear cameras, and this is basically where the phone acts as its own tripod. And what I can do now is use the 3 main cameras on the rear of the phone as selfie cameras, or I can set the phone up and do like time lapses or certain video content if I want to be hands-free. And what you can do is you can step away from the phone, and what it does is it recognizes your hand. So if you hold your hand out like this, it does a countdown and it takes a photo. So yeah, it's really handy for any solo creators out there. If you're looking to just, oh, and there it goes, it's taken another photo. I talk with my hands too much. But yeah, it's a really handy feature for any solo creators out there if you're looking to do hands-free video content or you're just trying to do some selfies or whatever. It saves you having to bring a tripod out with the phone. You can just prop it up. As long as you make sure it's safe and it's not going to fall over. Yeah, it's just really handy. And you can set the phone up like this if you want to do landscape content as well. It lies flat on its screen. So yeah, it's just a really handy feature if you're trying to do solo hands-free content. One other thing to mention really quickly about the photos that come out of this phone is every now and then when there's a really blue sky like there is behind me, I've just noticed it in some of the photos I've been taking. The phone just loves to make the skies look really blue, more blue than they are in person. Again, another bit of a trend that I see in a lot of phones these days. So I wish they'd tone that down a little bit, or I wish phone manufacturers would give us a bit of a setting which was like normal color and vibrant color, and then it would just have a little bit more of a toned down color palette on the normal color mode. But yeah, this phone just tends to really like pump the saturation on the sky in photos sometimes. Really sorry about this wind as well. I don't know if you can hear it on this microphone, but yeah, it's really windy here today, so yeah, video's a bit of a struggle. So one thing I'm really not too keen on with this phone is when it comes to the video side of things. Now the quality is good, and every lens can do 4K 60 with the main sensor being able to do 8K 30, which is insane. But where it falls apart for me is just how the video looks sometimes in terms of like its contrast. It really overdoes the contrast, and then it seems to overdo the sharpness as well. So the footage just seems to like fall apart, especially if you're trying to bring that footage in with other cameras. You can just instantly know, oh, that was recorded on a phone. When I was in Porto recently, the first day we had like tons of rain. It was torrential downpours. So I didn't really feel comfortable taking my cameras out with me. So instead of taking all my camera gear out, what I thought is I'll take the phone out and I'll just capture photo and video on this. The photos were great, but when it came to the video, I just couldn't use it in the video that I made from Porto. So I ended up missing a day because of that, because when I brought the footage into DaVinci Resolve, I just couldn't get it to look right. It was just so over-processed and it just looked horrendous. Now, again, it was an overcast day, and I don't know if it was really trying to... Something just fell over in the van there, sorry. Yeah, it was an overcast day, so I don't know if it was trying to like overcompensate and it was just trying to make the day look better than it was. But I don't know, it just fell apart for me, so I couldn't use that footage in the end. Missed out on a day of filming and photography, which is a bit unfortunate. But Samsung have already kind of addressed this in the new S25 lineup. Those phones now shoot log video, which is really nice. So I'm kind of hoping when One UI 7 comes out for this phone that they bring log support over with that as well. And that log footage will then allow me to capture footage, and I can put my own color grade on it then, and I should be able to match it more closely to the other cameras that I use, just like a lot of people do with the Pro iPhones at the moment. I see a lot of log footage coming from those phones, and it looks really good, to be fair, for a phone. So yeah, I do hope Samsung bring log to some of their older phones, but we'll see what happens with that. Another thing this phone supports is the S Pen. It works on the inner display, and it's just great when it comes to editing. You can just have a bit more precise control over the sliders in Lightroom and apps like that. And it's just really good for taking notes as well. Like the handwriting recognition on this phone is really good. So yeah, the S Pen's a really cool feature. One other thing that I am hoping they do in the future, and I know a lot of other people want this as well, I want them to be able to put the S Pen inside the phone. If you've seen the Samsung Ultra series, the S24 Ultra, the S25 Ultra, that phone has the S Pen slotted inside, so it's always with you. Whereas this S Pen, it's just loose, so you have to remember to bring it with you, or you know, like you just don't have it. As these folding phones are progressing more and more, everyone's going for thinness. And I don't know if you guys have seen the new Oppo Find N5 that just got released, but that thing is crazy thin. It's just as thick as the USB port on one of the sides. So yeah, it's a little bit thinner than this device, but this is also quite thin for a foldable. I had some of the older generations and they were bricks. So like, this is already amazing. But as we strive more and more for thinness, I just don't know where they're gonna fit an S Pen in this phone. So as much as I want the S Pen to be inside, I just don't know if it's ever going to really become a thing. So yeah, overall, I do feel like this phone has a great camera package. It's really good for photo and video. And yeah, if you're just mindful of some of the things I mentioned, like some of the oversaturation on the photos and the over contrast on the video, if you can just keep those in mind, the rest of the camera is like really, really good. And obviously the flex mode, like I mentioned earlier, gives you a lot more flexibility, no pun intended, as to when it comes to like solo creation. You know, you can just open the phone up, stand it up wherever you want it to, and then you can do hands-free content then, or hands-free photography, time lapses, things like that. But there is one big elephant in the room with this phone, and that is the price. So yeah, currently at the moment, here in the UK, it's £1,899, which is insane for a phone, I understand. Luckily, I didn't pay that for this phone. I got it on a really good deal. If you do keep your eyes open, they do come up on good deals sometimes. I have seen it floating around £1,400, £1,500, which brings it more in line to like the top tier, like iPhones and the Ultras of the world. But yeah, just keep in mind, like the price is quite high on this phone. But for that, you are getting basically a phone and a tablet in one. You are getting the flex modes that do help you capture photography when you're on your own. So yeah, if you can stomach that price, or you do find it on a good deal, it is a fantastic phone. And apart from the photos, like just general use of the phone, it's amazing. As I mentioned earlier as well, you get the S Pen, so it's good for editing, but it's good for note taking and things like that as well. Yeah, the overall package of this phone, like in general, is great. But yeah, also the cameras are really good as well. But yeah, it's just that price that's a bit of a big barrier to entry for a lot of people. I could suggest maybe looking used, but with it being a foldable, because the screens on the inside are made of plastic, you do have to be quite cautious. So if you are going to get one used, make sure it's got Samsung's warranty left on it. Make sure it's not got any big scratches in it. Make sure it's got no dead pixels in it and things like that, because the inner screen is quite fragile. So just be wary of that if you are looking on the used market. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it there for today. Do let me know what you think about this format in the comments below. And if you want me to switch things up, add any extra things, just let me know. This is going to evolve over time, I feel like. The more videos I do, the more I'll learn, the more I'll know what I want out of this video. But the main premise is I want to go out, taking landscape photography photos, and just showcasing how good phones can be when it comes to landscape photography. You don't always need a really high-end camera to capture beautiful photos, and I just want to showcase that. So yeah, do let me know in the comments below if there's anything you want to see, any changes you want. But yeah, that's where I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.